Hello, it says I'm alive. Hi there, this is David No. Hawkeye Two Feathers is my Native American name. Um, and today is June the 6th, 2018. It is the anniversary of D-Day, World War II, and not a fond remembrance, but many memories of folks that I knew from World War II, fought, served, wounded, and also to those who died that I didn't know because I wasn't born yet. But to the point, though, we should never forget. Now, on to the subject that I really wanted to speak about, and that has to do with, I've been watching social media here, and there are a lot of folks who are just got their underwear in a bunch, okay? And it's all about the tariffs and what Trump is doing to destroy America. That's what everybody's saying. Now, my personal experience. Now, you can go to my Facebook page and you can check out pictures and where I worked and what I did. And I worked for a tier 1 company called Prestolite Wire Corporation in Tifton, Georgia. And I started work there in about 1997 and was let go in 2005 because of NAFTA. Okay. Now, it was signed in by Billy Clinton, and then it was supersized when George Bush and them took over. And it was made even more ridiculous later on when Obama took over. Now, let me go back to what I absolutely know while I worked at Prestolite. Now, I was a contract engineer, and I worked on every single machine in 2 separate plants. There were 682 people who worked between the 2 plants there at the Prestolite division in Tifton, Georgia. Now, both of those plants are closed. No one works for Prestolite anymore. All of the machine shops that used to support us, most of those are closed. The people who used to supply supplies to Prestolite, cleaning things, blah, 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 all of those businesses have shut down. There are thousands of people who have been affected. Now, what started it? What started it was they felt, well, we really want to get to be friends with China and all these other countries. And so they let the guard down. And what I mean by that is they started allowing in steel, aluminum, tool steel, you name it, at almost half the cost. Now, what Americans didn't realize is that there was this thing going on with recycling, right? And after I lost my job at Prestolite, I've recycled dang near everything I could find. I mean, I was dragging cars in and chopping things up and you name it. And I might have made $1,000 over a 3-year period, maybe, of selling aluminum and steel and copper. I never stole anything. It was all something that was either given or recycled on my own. Now, back to the Prestolite thing. As an engineer, we were ordering tool steel. Okay, so we would order a part made from a machine shop. And because they were in such a tight to make a decent profit, unbeknownst to us, we would order something I'm just going to pick a tool steel, A2, okay? Just a designation. Instead of buying A2 from an American company, which was higher, because the tariffs and everything had been dropped on overseas steel, these folks were buying tool steel from overseas at a reduced cost because they wanted to increase their profit margin without driving the cost of the parts up for us. We, in turn, would have rather paid a little bit more for American steel, okay? Instead, we had to find out after our tools were breaking and things are going wrong, machines are going nuts. And as an engineer, I'm going, okay, what happened? So we did it took about 2 months to do this investigation. We sent parts off to different companies to have them test the steel to make sure that if it was the designation we said it was. And then we did all this investigation, almost 2 months. Stuff's breaking, folks are going crazy, our production's dropping, and I find out through this, and this, that some of our machine companies that are making the parts for us have purchased the A2 steel from overseas. What? So we, back in 2003, 2004, we were already getting poor quality steel and aluminum into the United States. During that time, at least two major, I would think one of them was Bethlehem Steel, and I can't remember the other, went completely out of business. During that time in NAFTA, and which is still kind of sort of going on, except that now Trump is trying to stop NAFTA. People don't get it. Thousands of people that I knew, worked with, are out of work. Some of them never got another job. Some of them, some people lost their homes over this mess because of, well, the company decided to take one of their most profitable companies and send it to Nogales, Mexico. We had to train the people. We had to ship the machines down there and literally wave goodbye to our jobs. Now, that was NAFTA. I was the second person in the state of Georgia to receive. I went through this. I'm telling you, I have personal experience with this nonsense. I was the second person in the state of Georgia to receive extended benefits signed into law by George Bush and Congress because NAFTA, we had lost so many manufacturing jobs to other places, to Canada and to Mexico, not just one or the other, but both, that we got an extra, 6 months worth of $250 a week stipend. I say that because I was making $750 a week as an engineer take-home pay. So I went from $750 a month to $250. Wait a minute, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, $1,000 a month. I went from $750 a week to $1,000 a month in quote, unemployment benefits. All right. I'd much rather have my job back. A lot of other people too. I mean, you're making $10 an hour as a machine operator and are earning that $10 an hour. You have to give it up and then go to work for Walmart for minimum wage. Some folks had 8, 10, 15 years experience out the window. No other manufacturing jobs. No manufacturing jobs. I thought maybe, okay, I'm an engineer, all right, but I started as a machinist. Maybe I could go back to being machinist. 9 out of 10 machine shops have closed. Yep, 9 out of 10. Since then, in 2005 and 6, around here down in South Georgia, there are little machine shops and welding shops all over the place. You can't find one now. I mean, there's one over here and there's one over there, but there was a dozen in our area, easy. There was 5 or 6 just in Colquitt County, Moultrie alone, not counting Thomasville and Cairo and all these other little towns around. But I digress with that. All those jobs are gone, all of them. They're manufacturing jobs. Now, what is Trump trying to do? Trump is bringing back, quote, manufacturing jobs to America. I'm sorry. And you say that's bad? Whoa, I was a lifelong Democrat until this last election, when I started doing my real homework, when I turned off the mainstream CNN bull news. Okay? Now, here's the deal. Do I like everything that Trump's doing? No, it's okay. What I do like is the fact that he's trying to put America back in the driver's seat. People generally, unless you were in the business that I was in, manufacturing and machining and all that, unless you were involved in it in any way, you would not have heard the giant sucking sound that went south and north. And north, we lost a lot to Canada because their labor is cheaper. Their thingy is different. They have got a lot of immigrants from all nations. I mean, and how do I know this? Well, because Prestolite bought a company in Canada. I went to Canada several times. I met these folks in these other plants, okay? And I was surprised to find out that 40 to 50% of the workers in these plants up in Canada were Russian. They were Russian. They all spoke Russian or Ukraine. But to the point, even some of the Ukrainian women considered themselves like Russian. I was surprised. I mean, I'm not against it. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it wasn't, quote, Canadian, white people, Canadian, blah, blah, blah. No, these were immigrants from all over. Pakistan, India. One of the engineers was from Ghana or something down in South America, And I thought he was Iranian or Middle Eastern or something, And no, he was from South America. But to the point, though, there weren't any homegrown Canadians working in the Canadian plant. Very few. And that's okay. That's Canada. My point is that we Americans are still living here. I've been here. I'm 65. I've been here since I was born. I know I'm not against immigration as long as it's legal. Y'all quit, sneaking under the fence and coming in here and doing this stuff. And I'm okay with it. I am okay with it. However, all this underhanded stuff. Now, as being a Democrat, I'm like, well, folks, I'm supposed to pity the poor Mexicans. I've worked with some Mexicans and they were beyond poor. There's 8 or 10 of them living in one house and they're all sharing the rent and blah, 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 blah. And these guys have got more pocket money than I did at the end of the month. Why? Because they were being paid under the table. They didn't have to pay Social Security and all this other stuff. They were working for independent contractors and everybody had an app on their cell phones. And now this has been 6 or 7 years ago, okay? They had an app on their cell phone that if something happened, they could push a button and it notified all the other illegal Mexicans in Southwest Georgia and they all hid. And I mean, they would just go, you could hear their phone go off and it had a certain tone. And they go, sorry, boss, gotta go. And they just dropped their tools and got in their truck and drove away. They didn't even pick up. I mean, they just left because ICE was coming. Now, do I feel bad for these people? Not when I know people who live around here who are looking for work as a carpenter or construction or something. And you say, well, I'm not going to hire the white guy because I can't pay him under the table. I have to pay him Social Security. I'm telling you, it's been going on and going on and going on, this underhanded table thing. All right. Now, that's construction. That's immigration. That's what I'm saying about the illegals. I tried to get back into construction. Well, I can't compete with 5 Mexicans in a van. Oh, sir, we get it. They get it done. No, I got one guy and I'm trying to hire another, and can they get it done faster? Sure. Are they doing it to code? But they're not here legally and they're not paying any taxes other than sales tax on the things that they buy. No, nothing into Social Security. Now, to the other side of this point, it's American bosses who are hiring these people because they don't want to pay me or another white guy or even a black folk, even folks who are Americans. They wouldn't hire them because they had to pay their Social Security tax and unemployment tax. People are whining about Donald Trump and these tariffs. It's one of the best things that's happened since before Billy Clinton signed the NAFTA deal, because that's what started this. Boom. Ross Perot said it way back in the day. The great giant sucking sound that you will hear from this NAFTA deal. Oh my God. If people could really sit down and look at what's happened, but you can't. I mean, down here in South Georgia, I've watched all these shops and all these people that I've known. I mean, I grew up in machine shops and things around here. I can't find a machine shop. I'm telling you, there's no manufacturing around here much anymore. And what is very selective, which is okay. But I mean, you know, Prestolite was selective too. It made spark plug wires for Ford and Chrysler and all these other companies. For people to be whining about, oh my God, Donald Trump is going to ruin us. Donald Trump is trying to put America back. We used to make, we still do actually, Crucible Steel, and I can't remember where it's at, but it's up in the northeast-ish somewhere. They make the finest quality of tool steel on the planet. Yes, they're more expensive. Why? Because their safety precautions and how they make their metal, when it comes out, if you have a problem with their stuff, they check it twice before you get it. And if you check it for hardness or whatever it is, blah, 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 and there's a problem with their steel, they come in and replace it and they back it up. They back up their tool steel. Now, we used to have parts made and we didn't find out, and I think I did this in the beginning of this. Forgive me if I repeat myself, but when we were buying tool steel and parts and we couldn't find out while our tools were bursting and parts were breaking that didn't normally break. I mean, just, it was wild. We found out it was some of the machinists had purchased cheaper metal, and when we tracked it back, it went back overseas. Them folks ain't replacing nothing. You understand what I'm saying? They never replaced the steel to the man who purchased it. They didn't stand behind the fact that it was sold as an A2 tool steel. It wouldn't heat treat. It wouldn't act right. It wouldn't grind right. It had pock marks in the metal when you'd cut it and grind it, and then all of a sudden a big chunk could be missing out of the middle of the steel. But he saved half as much money buying this cheap steel. In the long run, it bit him in the rear end. He had to replace that steel. He had to eat the cost of making the parts that were no good because he purchased cheap steel. And that's part of the reason he went out of business, because he was trying to cut corners. If he had stuck with American steel and said, folks, American steel is a little higher, but I refuse to use steel from Japan or China or Russia or wherever. We got some steel in from Russia that wasn't any good either. Not talking about any of the countries. I'm talking about the quality of the steel, okay? The quality of the aluminum. Folks aren't listening to this. It's the quality, stupid. You can't make a part to last if the steel's no good. Now, I know I'm going to piss off a bunch of people, but y'all need to quit whining about this tariff mess. We need American steel. We need American workers. Whether you like Trump or not, this should have never left our country. It should have stayed here all along. Blame it on Billy Clinton. Blame it on your George Bush Sr. And blame it on Obama because he made it even worse than Bush did. Check it. Now, manufacturing is coming back. We can have jobs again. I could even get a part-time job as an engineer or draftsman or something like that because of my 45 years of experience. There is no place to get a job now because they all left the country. Support your president on this. Support the tariffs because we're getting crappy steel. If for no other reason, we're getting crappy steel. Let's have our own steel made here in America. Let's go back to what these guys used to build as high quality steel and aluminum right here in America. There was a company, I had to go past an aluminum company to get the Prestolite. It went out of business just before we did. So there was an aluminum plant that also lost all its jobs and machining and all that. That went out because we were buying aluminum from China. So all the people that worked, I don't know how many people, but I know a bunch of people lost their jobs there and they haven't come back. So you want to argue about tariffs? I know thousands of people who lost their jobs because we gave away our rights as Americans. The government, Clinton, Bush, and Obama sold us, and the Congress sold us down the river. I'm telling you. Ask some of the folks on my Facebook page who used to work at Prestolite. Did we all lose our jobs? You're right, we did. Where did our jobs go? To Mexico. Now, a lot of the people who work there don't know some of the underlying things, but as a contract engineer, it was my job to check the tooling coming in. It was my job to make sure all the drawings were correct. It was my job to go back through and troubleshoot what was going on. And this is what I found. Now, they didn't let me go because of that. No, they let me go because they sent all of our machines to Mexico because labor was 1/3 what our cost was in America. So we all lost our jobs. All the machinists, everybody around here, gone. I'm still out of work. I shouldn't be on, well, I'm 65 now, but I should have been able to work until last year, until my birthday. Not have to suck up and take a $600 a month cut in pay because Obama passed a law about Social Security back in about 2008/9 and cut my Social Security from $1,250 a month to $800 a month. Oh, no problem. You don't deserve it. I worked all my life to get my Social Security. And then they passed a law. Whoops. Sorry about that. We're not going back to the beginning of when you started paying in Social Security. We're only going back 10 years. Well, I was out of work for 2, pushing 3. And by then they said, well, because you haven't put in the last couple of years, we don't owe you $1,250 a month anymore. We're only going to give you $700. And then finally, with a little bit of chicken and jiving, I ended up with $800 a month instead of $1,250. That was in 2009, my friends. They have bent so many of us baby boomers over. You have no idea. And folks want to, oh, Trump and the tariffs. If you knew the truth, you would shut your whining up. I'm sorry, that was rude. But there are some folks out there I thought had a little bit of sense in their head. But they don't know the facts. All they're listening to is this jibber jabber. Ask an engineer who's been unemployed for 10 years. Ask all these other people who work for manufacturing companies, dedicated their lives to do this. And what? What? We're a bunch of dummies? We lost our job because of these dang fools before, And you want to criticize Trump for putting a tariff on steel coming into this country. It's hard not to be pissed off, because it's like, you people, folks who don't understand this, you didn't lose your job. You didn't lose your livelihood. You didn't lose $500 a week in pay and benefits, etc. You didn't lose, but a bunch of us did, and I'm one of them. And I'm no longer a Democrat either, by the way. Have a wonderful day. I know I'm steaming, I'm hot, I'm sweaty, but I'm listening to these whiny folks, and I'm like, you got no idea. You got no idea. Because they didn't work in manufacturing. They didn't work in this setting. Their jobs were at other things. But I'm telling you, we've lost it. If the young people nowadays to go back to work, those of us with the 15, 20, 30, 40, I got 45 years of experience working with machines, tool steel, grinding, precision grinding. These young folk, I'm talking anywhere from 20 to 40, because it's been 10 years, well, 15 years now, almost, since we've lost this manufacturing base, and it's been heading out right on, right? The 20 and 30-year-olds who could have gotten a job during school or this and that, working in a machine shop part-time, or working a second shift at a mill or something like that. You know, like at Prestolite had 3 shifts. There were people who went to school in the day and then worked second shift at night. And the company worked with them. I mean, it was great. And so, but that's just not available any longer, period, because those manufacturing jobs are gone. Now, the younger folks have had no experience with any type of manufacturing. It's gone. They never worked in a shop. They never swept up scraps in this or worked around a lathe or whatever. The amount of people trying to get a job in a machine shop now is like this big. Everybody wants to be a draftsman or an architect. Fine. But if you don't have somebody working in manufacturing to buy the home, they don't need an architect. Only architects buy it. I mean, an architect's going to design his own home. So, I mean, it's just unbelievable. All the engineering funds that I knew who made anywhere from $35,000 to $125,000 a year, unemployed. The houses that they could afford, they had to move out or sell. So it's horrible, absolutely horrible what they did to us. I mean, on a personal note, of the people that I've seen, and I say ruined, because there wasn't anywhere else for them to go. The depression, I went into a depression. I was like, but wait a minute, I've got all this experience. I've been working for this company, and I've been doing this, and I've been doing everything right. I saved Prestolite millions in dollars in tool costs by standardizing some things and changing tool steels around until they started changing the tool steel on. I mean, I want to leave on a positive note, and I positively want to say we need to support our president, Donald Trump, whether you like him personally or not. This business deal that he's making right now with the tariffs, steel, whatever he's making a tariff on, because it's putting you and you and you and him and her out of work. Because for everything we buy from anywhere overseas or across our borders is something we in America are not making. Why is America poor? I mean, people that I've known for years, they're all working fast foods. Oh, I'm an assistant manager at Arby's. Yeah, but you used to be a lead operator as a machine operator, and yeah, I know, I'm only making about half as much money, but I got a job and I'm happy as an assistant. Now, I'm not picking on RBDs or assistant managers. That's not my point. My point is he already had 15 years in a career that was just snatched out, and nowhere for him to go look for anything else. Nothing. And the best job he could get was an assistant manager. Now, I say Arby's. I just happen to know some people that work at Arby's, and I like Arby's, so but shameless plug for them. I love their gyros, or heroes, as the Greeks call them. Now, the positive note is, tell your friends, quit whining, do your homework, find out how many manufacturing jobs, how many steel corporations, how many people were put out of work. I mean, the people who worked at the companies, one thing, there might be 500, but there might be another 500 people in the community that support these other 500. And these 500 that are making decent money and have a job, they're going to be buying food and gas and pop and soda, all these other kinds of things. But if there isn't a manufacturing job that people can go to and make a decent living, because you have to be higher trained and have a little bit of common sense, and so you aren't relegated to just sweeping the floors, because it doesn't require a lot of mental configurations. I'm lost here. Now, I'm not saying that I've pushed brooms for a long time. I was a janitor. I liked being a janitor, actually, because you didn't have to think about stuff. You could just sweep the floor. But my point is that an operator of a complex machine has to learn the machine, and by being proficient, then he is allowed to earn more money than the janitor who just continues to sweep the floor. Not that one job isn't more important than the other, because without a janitor, the guy couldn't work at his machine. But anyway, that's another story. My point is, neither of them have a job now. Not the janitor nor the lineman. Okay? That's how serious this is. Trump wants to bring it back, and folks are jumping up and down and whining. And folks are jumping up and down saying he's going to, quote, ruin America. I'm sorry. We've had 3 other presidents to ruin America for us, and you're going to blame it on him. Sad, sad, sad. Seriously. Sad, sad, sad. Quit watching mainstream media and go do some homework. Do a little digging on your own. Type in, how many manufacturing jobs were lost since 2000? How many steel plants closed since then in America? What has been our import versus our export? We don't send anything overseas. No, it all comes this way. We don't make things here. Down here in Southwest Georgia, when I first moved up here, there were tobacco farms, there were tobacco warehouses, there was a whole industry of tobacco. It doesn't exist anymore. All those people are gone because they made it too expensive to grow here in the United States and the state of Georgia. Also, manufacturing jobs. Down here in the South, there were at least 20. I mean, the little town of Meigs had 2 at one time. Sewing companies. This one made underwear, sewed underwear. This one made Levi's jeans. This one made this one. And I mean, in Riverside, which is just outside of Moultrie by that far, Riverside closed its doors to the folks in Moultrie, and it's been around for, I don't know, 75 years or more or less-ish. They made uniforms around the world. But because the uniform business got so slack here in great America, because all the manufacturing jobs have gone and all the other jobs associated with them. They closed the sewing plant of all those hundreds of workers and all that. Now, do you know what the business here is down here in South Georgia? Raising and killing chickens. I kid you not. Raising and killing chickens. That's the new manufacturing for South Georgia. Raising and killing chickens. We don't make anything. We don't sew up anything. We don't make pants or whatever. I mean, those of us, we used to buy seconds from these companies, you know. I knew a gentleman who would go to Riverside when they would get so many of their pants and stuff and a little bit of worn, a little patch spot here or there. He would buy these pants for, I don't know, like 10 for like $1 a pair just to get them out of the way so they didn't have to throw them away. And he would resell them for $1.50 a pair. I could buy them, look great to me, for $3. He made a profit. The scrap from the company didn't go to the landfill. And all of us poor folk walked around in fairly decent clothes that we got at a good discount. All that's gone. This little business, they were all legal businesses. He had a storefront. He had piles. You know, that's all gone. And you say, but Trump is an idiot and that he's going to bring America down. Whine, whine, whine. Do your homework. Because if you continue to whine about this mess and the tariffs and the steel and the aluminum and the lumber, they shut down lumber in the Northwest because of the spotted owl, who was only in one section. And now I as a forester, I trained as a forester. I worked in forestry way back when. Used to do pulpwood when I first moved to the South Georgia. Had my own pulpwood truck. If somebody said that you couldn't cut pine trees down here in South, there would be an uproar because of the southern pine. Now, the northern pine and the northwest up there are beautiful trees, and some of those forests need to be thinned. Now, the problem I had, and at that time, they were in the process of changing it. They were just clear cutting. Now, I'm against clear cut. Absolutely. Now, you can clear cut a section up the side of the mountain, leave a spot, clear cut another, but they were just taking off the whole sides of mountains all the way around. That's not good. So, part of the argument back then with the trees, we're going to take Canadian trees because we don't care what they do. If they want to cut all their trees down and clear cut, fine. But the rules in America changed. Well, we can't do it. Blah, blah, blah. And then they said, oh, spotted out. And they drove a lot of the business out of America so we could buy Canadian lumber. And I can't believe this, but Lowe's actually buys lumber. I couldn't believe this. I had a friend of mine that said, did you know we got a load of lumber in from Russia? Why are we getting lumber from Russia? Why can't we cut our own? There is sustainable harvest here in America, but it's the idiot politicians. And I got to admit, there's some guys on the ground are going, yeah, well, if I can't clear cut the whole mountain, I don't want to do it. But you have to change your opinion as well. We all have to compromise on this. But because the politician said, well, if you won't, and the other guy, and not everybody was on board with if I can't cut. No, they were willing to compromise, but their options were taken away so that the compromise that was received was you lose your job and we buy lumber across the border from you guys at a reduced price to help the Canadians. And why is Lowe's buying lumber from Russia? I still can't figure that one out. Now, that's been a couple years ago, but what? Is it a special lumber? I mean, is it like a Russian oak or something like that? I mean, I could see it if it was a special, but if you're saying that the reason we're buying lumber from Russia in huge quantities, I might add, by the boatload, I'm talking, why can't we cut our own trees? I've been to the Northwest. I've been across the United States, all the way up, all the way across. I've been on Mount Rainier. I've seen the Northwest. There are plenty of trees if it's managed properly. That's the other side of the coin. All right. Folks in it for the buck, they're going to have to spend another $1 or $2 to get them trees down without ruining our ecosystem. Now, the other side of the coin is some of these trees need to come down because of weather and this and that. We have huge forests of dead trees. Some of those could still be used, but we're not using them. Guess why? The sawmills have closed. The people who used to cut the lumber are out of work, out of business, have killed themselves or retired or whatever. So there isn't anybody to cut those trees down. Why? Because we bought trees from Canada. Oh, we're helping them out, Oh, NAFTA. Okay. Wait, we're buying lumber from Russia? What's that got to do with NAFTA? And the Russian lumber was cheaper than the lumber from Canada. And they had to ship it over here in a boat. Now, I'm not against, Russia making money. That's not my point. My point is Americans aren't working, because everything we have now is being imported. Go to Lowe's and ask some of these folks, where did this batch of lumber come from? They're not going to tell you the Northeast. Now, I say that in that what had happened before, my brother worked there at Lowe's at one time. I have several friends who used to work at Prestolite who ended up working for Lowe's because that was the best other job they could get, minimum wage. God bless them, making $12-15 an hour and then have to work for $6.50. And then, well, how come you can't pay for your house anymore? How come you can't pay for your car? Well, you must be spending too much money. Ladies and gentlemen, there are so many things that have happened in the almost 20 years. Well, actually, about 1998 is when they started this NAFTA business really big. If folks could remember, now I've watched it here in South Georgia disappear. And if any of you other folks who live in the South, you'll know we used to have all kinds of little companies. There were guys who worked on the sewing machines. I worked for a time, part-time on a second shift, learning how to repair sewing machines. Okay. I mean, I can't do that even. There is no business for me to use my knowledge any longer in South Georgia. It's gone. Or North Florida. Because all the engineering, all the plants and everything is gone. Instead, we have a new Publix. We've got a new this. We got a new that. We've got 4 new restaurants in Moultrie. I don't know where the money's coming to. I can't go to the restaurants, but we do have a big chicken plant almost downtown, The chicken plant is bigger than downtown Moultrie, okay? Bigger, more security, the whole 9 yards. I'm not against that. People are working, but when I see, get this, when I see the people coming out of there, most of them are of Spanish descent. Okay, they're Mexicans. All right. I was in Walmart the other night. I have nothing against Mexicans. I don't. But we're talking about Americans who don't have jobs. So as I'm in Walmart, half of the people in the Walmart, this is about 9 o'clock in the evening, half of the people in Walmart can't speak English. Excuse me, ¿dónde? ¿Dónde es what? Aquí? Okay. What? Oh, I'm sorry, you're Mexican. See, but if I say you're Mexican, then I must be a racist. I'm not. That's where you came from, Mexico. I'm an American. I come from America. I live in South Georgia. That makes me a South Georgian. I mean, come on. But my point is that most of the people that work out there to that plant weren't born here. What happened to the people who lived here? I've looked around and tried to, some of well, this person died of an overdose a year ago because they lost their job and got on crack cocaine and they overdosed. What? That friend of mine I used to work with is overdosed on. Yep. Mm-hmm. Lost his job, lost his house, gave up, went on crack cocaine, and now he's dead. And people want to bitch about Trump. I'm sorry. I was a lifelong Democrat. I've watched what the Democrats and the Republicans and during George Bush. But the thing is the Democrats didn't try to stop it. They went along with him. So are the Democrats to blame? Oh, yeah. Are the Republicans to blame? Some of them, oh, yeah. Is Obama to blame? Even bigger. He took money out of my pocket from my Social Security. And people want to say, well, how come you're so against Obama? Barry Soetoro. He stole, and the government stole $450 a month from me to give it to the immigrants because they're on all Social Security. I get $1,000 a month. They're getting $3,000. I was born here, worked all my life here, and they got under the fence and come in through some kind of whoopee-doo thing. And because they're immigrant, poor them. What about poor me? What about the poor people I know, my age, who struggled all their life for America to do something, and we can't make ends meet? If I get a flat tire, I can't get it fixed. I don't have money. I can't get my teeth fixed. I pulled my own because I can't afford a dentist, and a dentist won't take Medicare. Talk about being screwed. And I'm an American. Oh, but hey, you got long hair. Well, I didn't used to. I was straight lace, short hair, businessman, coat and tie. I was an engineer. I brushed elbows with some of the top guys in the Ford and Chrysler business. I've been to Detroit and hung around. I've been to Canada and all around. And that's beside the point. I'm an American. I worked all my life here. I put my money into Social Security. Tanis Olson Metz. Hi, Tanis. I'm sorry. I'm ticked today. Bye. Bye. Hi. It's okay. It's all good. Some of my friends that I went to high school with, I was on Facebook, and they're just ramming this. Oh my God, Trump's gonna kill us, and all this stuff, and all this stuff, and I'm like, what? They don't know, and I'm still on this tirade 48 minutes later when I was going to try to keep it to 15. But if anybody will watch this damn thing, I'm riled up. I'm riled up, because of all the people if you're an engineer, you know dang well they never landed that thing on the moon. Tinfoil, hey, buddy. I say buddy. I'm not. I don't know what to call people. Hi, tinfoil. It might be a woman or that, But, when I was a kid, I grew up in Florida and in Tampa. And we could take I-4 across the state and be over in Daytona. And, we've been to, it was Cape Canaveral when I was growing up. And then it was Cape Kennedy. And then they moved it back to Canaveral. I don't know what the hell they call it now. But when I first saw some of that stuff, I looked and I went, that's the moon lander? Really? And you guys, okay. Well, at the time, I wasn't an engineer. I was just a kid. But over the years, after looking at what was going on and who was coming and being where, I was like, you know what? Well, then you learned about the Van Allen belt. And I heard one scientist recently say the Van Allen belt, if you send them out over the pole, that's where the Van Allen belt is the least. And that's what we did. You're about to turn 53 on Friday. Happy birthday to you. And 50-something female in, am I? Michigan? Ah, that might be it, huh? Right. Well, you being in Michigan, you know, when I went to Detroit, Motor City, man, you know, I thought, oh, you know, I see all these plants. And then when we drive through these, I just remember it was a 4 or 6 lane highway and a lot of empty buildings. Oh my goodness. You're right, tinfoil. Michigan, right. But so when I was in Detroit, I was like, you know, and at the time they were in the process of moving an engine plant to Mexico. And the reason I know that is a very dear friend of mine who just lived right down the road, worked for a company here in South Georgia that built the wastewater treatment plant for the Chrysler, mind you, Chrysler engine plant in Mexico. It cost them too much to try to do it in America. So they sent, I can't imagine the millions and millions of folks to set this up, because the Mexicans have a different type of work ethic. So when they would go up and say, did you teach that read? Oh, see, I took reading. But, you know, and it's like, but you took the reading 4 hours ago. See, 4 hours ago. See. You're supposed to take it every hour. Okay. Once an hour. Okay. What? See? What? Huh? See? Right there. One hour. See? Right there. No. Once per hour. I mean, my friend would come home on the weekends and he'd go, and literally he would be like down in a bottle of rum going, I can't believe these stupid Mexicans. And I'm trying to teach these guys. And he spoke decent Mexican for him. And lo and behold, this poor guy, he was coming back and he goes, we just spent another $100,000 on a piece of machinery because these guys didn't check it per hour and it overheated and they didn't turn the valve off and it blew this $25,000 pump that was like 4 foot, 5 foot in diameter. And it blew up this and they had to make another piece and they had to send it. Then they had to tear it apart. They had to send a crew from here to go down there to repair. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars in stupidity because those folks work differently. The same job here in America, you take most folks, because I've trained people and I go, look, here it is. Oh, now once an hour. Do you understand? Yes, sir. So 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, top of every hour. Yes, sir. You got it. And it'll be done. You can't, these folks down there, I mean, I've worked with them up here when I was at Prestolite, trying to just teach, and I had a Spanish interpreter kind of thing. And the guy would look at me and go, huh? Okay. And I'm like, look, here, bolt it down. See, tight. See, I mean, I had to spend what would have been 2 minutes of conversation with an American, ended up being 20 minutes trying to explain it to, he was legal. He had his green card. So I'm not bitching about that. But to the point, he couldn't speak English. So they hired somebody who couldn't speak English when nobody else spoke Spanish. I mean, and it's like equal employer. Okay. But he can't read English. All of our instructions are in English. We had to print out special instructions in Spanish for one guy out of 780. Yep, mechanical engineer. Can you imagine a centrifuge? Yep, I've worked with some, the small ones, and the diameter equal to the Earth size. I have thought about that. I know CERN is really big, and that in a way is a centrifuge. You can see it would not have to spin very fast to be thrown apart. Absolutely, absolutely. That's what's wrong with the earth. The earth is out of balance. Like a flat. I mean, if you lost a wheel weight on a tire and you try to go 40 miles an hour and your front end is doing this number, you're going to go to it and get it fixed. Well, we can't just go to the mechanic to fix the earth out of balance. And with ice melting and water displacement and lava coming out and things, we are a planet out of balance like a tire is. It really isn't that complicated. And folks want to blame planet X and Nibiru. No, just look at the basic facts. The earth is heating up in the core. The earth is out of balance because of the shifting of frozen ice in places that didn't, and water where there used to be ice. We're just out of balance. Don't freak out. Oh my God, we're all going to die at some point. Yeah. Talk about inertia. We got plenty of that. Exactly. And what recently they came up and they said, the earth slowed down by 0.001 second. Oh my God. The earth slowed by 0.001 second. The atomic clock. Oh. I want to say, and so that 0.001 second means what? And where were you? Oh, come on. The things that really matter, they won't discuss. But, the earth slowing by a millisecond is like a big deal. That says, oh my God, the earth is going to crap, At work, got to go. Later, my friends. Bye, Tannis. See you later. I'm going to cut this off, too. I haven't had any lunch yet, and it's almost 4 o'clock. So, but I had to put my 2 cents in worth about this, and folks are just whining, and they don't know what they're whining about. I mean, I used to be one of those who are like, well, you can't cut down all of the Northwest and those guys up there, because I was a forester and environmentalist, still am. But to that point, though, I would look up and go, well, why are those guys? They put all them folks out of work, all of them, so we could buy lumber from Canada and Russia. Don't make sense to me. We can manage forest. They do it around here all the time. They can do it up in the Northwest if they will be willing. But you got to find people to do the work now, because all them folks mostly quit. Chainsaws, I mean, the whole businesses are gone. So everybody would have to retool to start, cutting trees down and milling them here. But it's for America. We shouldn't be buying trees from Canada. I'm sorry, shouldn't. I mean, if they're doing some cross-border something, yeah, okay. But I mean, why is there Canadian and Russian wood in Lowe's when I live in the South with all these big Georgia pines? Why? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. So, got things to work out. They can be worked out. I think Trump is on the right track. Like I said, I don't agree with everything he does, but in this particular issue with the tariffs and the steel, the aluminum, and that type of thing, he's right on, and we should support him. I know I do. And for all of my Democratic friends, you need to wake up and smell what's really going on. So I say I love you all from the heart, soul, and my soul heart. Peace, love, and I'll talk to you later. Tinfoil, later, bub. And out of here in 3, 2,